All right, y'all. So we had some giant news come out yesterday. Yesterday was a huge news day because we had Mexico erupting in basically a cartel narco war. We, of course, have the continued military buildup where we're about to launch another illegal and offensive war against Iran. And we also had the story of somebody showing up to Mar-a-Lago with a shotgun and getting killed by Secret Service. So this is a huge deal. Let me walk you through it. Take a look at this from the Daily Mail. Who is Austin Tucker? Austin Tucker Martin, the 21-year-old killed after entering Mar-a-Lago with a shotgun and a gas can, okay? So this kid, 21-year-old kid, this is him right here with the circle around his face. Yes, you're seeing this properly. This is not a trans person. This is not a black person. This is not an immigrant. This is not Antifa. This is a 21-year-old white Christian man. More on that in a minute. But as I keep scrolling here, there appears to be a type. There appears to be a type that has repeatedly gone after Trump. We had the Ryan Ruth guy, whose politics were completely and utterly indecipherable. In the past, he had supported Trump. Then he eventually turned on Trump. But he had this weird sort of enlightened centrist politics mixed in with conspiracy stuff. And he was the one who was hiding in the bushes on Trump's golf course while Trump was golfing, and they caught him. Then you have the other one. What is his name? Matthew Crooks? Is that what it is? And he was the one in Butler, Pennsylvania, when Trump was giving the rally speech, who shot. And most of them look like this guy. Ryan Ruth, admittedly, was an older version of this guy, but there's a type. The type is, awkward, skinny, loner, white guy, okay? He apparently liked to draw sketches of golf courses, which I find kind of interesting. Here's one of them here. We have Mar-a-Lago, and, like I said, he showed up at the gate with a shotgun. We also have a picture of the car he was driving, 2013 Volkswagen here. And again, this is a picture of him. I guess he was missing since the night before. He lives in North Carolina. He drove all the way to Mar-a-Lago, which is in like South Florida, in order to try to do this. But of course, the question then arises, well, why? Like, what's the actual motive? Well, let's walk through it here. Mediaite says Mar-a-Lago gunman was reportedly fixated on the Epstein files and believed there was a Trump government cover-up. TMZ reported on Sunday that the man who was shot and killed by Secret Service agents after he breached the secure perimeter at Mar-a-Lago with a shotgun was fixated on the files tied to Jeffrey Epstein and believed there was a government cover-up protecting his accomplices. The report is based on text messages from February 15th and from sources who worked with the man, identified as 21-year-old Austin Tucker Martin at a North Carolina golf course. TMZ also reported that Martin regularly expressed support for President Donald Trump. He apparently wasn't as much of a MAGA fan anymore, considering he was prepared to attack the president's estate. All right, let me pause here to point out, this is kind of crazy, but as I read more about this guy, it turns out the golf course that he worked at, I'm not even kidding about this, I have a trip planned where this kid worked was one of the courses I was going to play. Isn't that fucking wild? I have a trip planned where this dude worked at the golf course that I was going to go play at. Holy shit. So was a big-time Trump fan. The Epstein files soured him on Trump. He regularly expressed support for Trump. The Epstein files soured him on his support for Trump. I should also point out, I think he still lived with his parents, but they lived in a $1.1 million house in North Carolina, okay? Quote, I don't know if you read up on the Epstein files, but evil is real and unmistakable, Martin said in recent text messages. Quote, the best people like you and I can do is use what little influence we have, tell other people about what you hear about the Epstein files and what the government is doing. Raise awareness. Sources who worked with Austin at Pine Needles Lodge and Golf Club in North Carolina tell TMZ he became fixated on Epstein files following the latest release of information tied to the files. Co-workers tell us he was deeply disturbed by what he believed was a government cover-up and often talked about powerful people getting away with it. Martin was shot on Sunday after he tried breaking into Mar-a-Lago with a shotgun and a gas canister. The sheriff of Palm Beach County said Martin aimed his gun at officers before he was shot dead. The foiled attack also comes less than a month after the latest batch of Epstein-related files were released by the Justice Department. Attorney General Pam Bondi later said the DOJ has complied with federal law and released all Epstein documents following the batch of 3.5 million published at the end of January. President Trump has said the files absolve him of any wrongdoing. They also included an FBI document showing Trump thanked Florida cops for investigating Epstein and told them to focus on evil Ghislaine Maxwell back in 2006, among many other files. That's so funny. That's the one file that these people are hanging on to desperately try to cling to the fact that they think Trump is innocent. It's total nonsense. I've actually walked through all of that before. Epstein and Trump got into a dispute. The dispute was over the fact Epstein told Trump he was going to buy this property, and then Trump basically bought it out underneath from Epstein, and then he flipped it to a Russian fertilizer oligarch and basically made like $40 million in the peak of the Great Recession. You had Epstein thought that was fucking scummy of Trump to basically steal the deal out from underneath him, and so they went through a brief period there where they were enemies. And in that time frame, Trump was trying to act like, like, oh yeah, I'm totally against this guy. I hate this guy, bro. I don't even know what you guys are talking about. And this was in that period. But he's mentioned a million times in the files, a million times, even in the redacted first 1% of the files. It was like 38,000 times. He's guilty as sin. He's guilty as sin. Him and Epstein were best friends, according to Jeffrey Epstein himself. And isn't it something when you see the people who are turning on Trump the most aggressively are his former hardcore fans? And this is Andrew Callahan of Channel 5 said this to me and Crystal about a year ago. And I remember, or maybe it was like 8 months ago, something like that. And I remember going, holy shit, that's actually a great point. That, you have the QAnon shaman who was at January 6th for Trump. That guy turned on Trump. And for him, it all came back to the Epstein files. That at the core of his ideology was this idea that there's this, deep state of pedophiles that are really running the world, and that Trump is going to take down that cabal. And then as soon as it became clear Trump is protecting that cabal, if not the head of the snake in the cabal, the number one guy in the cabal. That's why they were investigating Mar-a-Lago as the center of the child trafficking hub. Like, in those moments, yes, some of the hardest core supporters flipped on him, and that's exactly what this looks like. 21-year-old white Christian man from North Carolina. And it took this for him to flip on Trump. It took you can't even dispute it. It is the most obvious thing in the world. Proof, not just evidence, proof that he's running cover to try to protect a child trafficking ring. And that's what finally led to some of his biggest supporters flipping on him. And flipping on him in a real, spurned lover kind of way, right? It's like, to go from love to hate, that's actually, it's two sides of the same coin. You understand what I'm saying? Like, the opposite of love is probably indifference. Hate is actually very closely linked to love in the sense that if you feel those intense emotions of love for somebody, when you can flip it and you get the same intensity in your hatred of that person, right? So in other words, these people are not going from I love Trump to I'm indifferent. They're going from I love Trump to I hate Trump. And some of his strongest soldiers are the ones who are now showing up to Mar-a-Lago with a fucking shotgun. Okay? By the way, not the brightest of all of them because Trump wasn't there. He wasn't there at the time. Okay? So, I doubt that he probably thought Trump was there, which is why he went. But, man, this is now the third instance. Isn't it crazy? Literally every one of the three people here who tried to go after Trump and potentially take his life, every single one of them, at least at one point in their life, was a Trump supporter. Isn't that crazy? Not trans, not black, not an immigrant, not Antifa, not far left. No, they all, to one extent or another, were Trump supporters. Absolutely wild, man. Absolutely wild. But then that begs the question, how many more people are out there that are the exact same, that they were hardcore ride or die for Trump, and now they're just furious and totally done with him? And I think there's a lot. I really do. For the simple reason that you lost all the independents, you lost all the moderates, you lost all the young people, you lost all the minorities that you had picked up votes in the last election. You now lost them all and then some. So seemingly all that's left is your cult, right? But even some of the biggest believers in the cult are the ones who are turning the most now, guys like this, because the core of the story they told themselves about why you're special has been proven to be a fraud. And you've proven that all you care about is helping the cabal of pedophile billionaire sadists. And so I'm telling you, man, my theory, you guys know this, I said this the other day, my theory as to why Gallup, after decades and decades, decided we're not going to do a presidential favorability tracking anymore. I guarantee you it's because there was a poll that had Trump at 28% or 29%, something that low. For sure. Because they probably felt like if we release this poll, he's going to come after us. He's going to audit us. He's going to investigate us. He's going to try to fucking arrest us or do a lawsuit against us. So they were like, fuck it. We don't want to deal with the headache. We're just going to get out of the business. Right? I bet you that's what's going on. And, all of the people who were moderates or had any semblance of reason left, they left Trump. And then now some of the people at the heart of the cult are the ones who are out now. So everything's crumbling around him. everything is crumbling around him. And I think deep down, he kind of knows that.
Hey y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.